Jordi Boggiano, and I...
That's a pretty good pronunciation.
Oh.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. Are in sort of the outskirts of Madrid, Spain, at a fantastic conference hotel at SymfonyCon 2014. Yeah? Right?
Yes.
Deal?
Boing.
Welcome to the Acquia Podcast, Drupal Technology, Community and Business.
Welcome to the Acquia Podcast, Drupal Technology, Community and Business.
There's a module for that?
Of course there is. Please introduce yourself and tell us something about yourself.
Something. I can tell you I'm Jordi Boggiano. I guess in this context, the relevant bit is I'm the lead developer and composer and part of the Symfony core team as well. Other than that, I'm also bad at telling things about myself.
All right, where do you work?
So I do like freelance stuff at the moment. I have my own company and just doing freelance and consulting gigs when someone asks, but I'm not looking like extensively to develop that. So it's mostly like long-term freelance stuff, and then a lot of open source, like to fill the gaps between free time, girlfriend, and work.
We don't want free time.
Yeah, no.
So how did you discover PHP? Do you have a first memory?
Yeah, well, not quite sure like how I discovered it per se. I mean, I had a friend that was doing things. I remember the first big project I undertook, which was like writing my own forum software, because obviously, finding an existing one just didn't come up. Was like the logical thing was learn to program so I can...
Of course, everybody wrote their own CMS, everybody wrote their own, you did a forum.
Exactly.
Because...
I did the CMS later, don't worry.
Oh, good. Do you still have clients on your own CMS?
No, just my blog, I think, which is like way overdue for a do-over, but yeah, it's
all right, so what was the first version of PHP that you used?
Absolutely no clue. Like, that is the kind of things I'm very bad at remembering. So it's a 4 point something, I guess, but like just date-wise, it has to be, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm also getting old, so you forget these things. But no, I guess it was like 14, 15, 16 years ago that I started like messing around with PHP.
So what made you stick with PHP and keep using it?
Vendor lock-in, I guess.
Vendor lock-in, right.
It does the job for like, I think it's a self-fulfilling circle at some point. Like, it does the web stuff well, and I do so much of that it's the only ideas I have is more web stuff. So I've done some Go in the past a bit, but I never really found a big use case. I've played around with Rust in the last year, and that's also like it's awesome fun. I love it. I would love to do more, but I don't quite have the needs.
Well, in your talk today, you also said something like, if you've got a tool that works, just use that.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was also the point about compare the security and the safety of using a known set of tools that are older compared to the risk of something new and shiny, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's also, to me, like also one of the points I made, I think, is like use what you know, and like I do know PHP very well, and I know a bit Python, for example, and I know I could do something with it, but it doesn't really offer anything much compared to PHP. Like, yeah, it's a bit different syntax, whatever, bit, this is nicer, this is not as nice, but down the line it's still on the same league. So yeah, I just don't have the pull to actually make that jump, because I don't see the point.
It's a cliche, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed your talk today. I'd like to post the slides and your contact info with the podcast. There's one particular area that, well, so you gave a mixture of tips. Some of them were really practical things about coding and tool sets and getting the job done. But it was mixed with a bunch of tips really about how to be a better person, I think.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the idea for the presentation?
Sleepless night somewhere during my holidays, like, you know, just wake up and start just crunching ideas and can't sleep again, and yeah.
Okay, so
like it was a bit of, you know, random things that annoyed me, and I was like, okay, I have to make something that glues all this together, and I don't know if it really went like together as one. Not quite sure about that. If like from the audience's perspective, it was.
Well, I thought it was really good, and I thought you had a lot of important things to say, and I clearly saw two sides to this.
Yeah.
Sort of practical stuff, and then lots of these points about be a better listener, learn to have empathy, put yourself in other people's shoes, which is about human relationships in the end, and in a way this touches on some concerns that I have about our industry. So developers who only focus on the code, right? Code is all they think about, code's all they want to know about. What are they missing out on?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say they're missing out on things like, I mean, that's really judging them as a person, saying like, okay, you're missing out on, you know, this amazing life that I'm leading because, like, no. I wouldn't go to that level, but I think they're missing out on some aspects of the job they can do. I think like if you want to be just code, you have to go like work for Google or something, just doing algorithms and being just that mathy server guy that, you know, that does the hard stuff. And you'll get someone that will talk to you, I'm sure, and nurture your, you know, dangerous personality. And it's all gonna be fine. But I think for most of us that are like in this business as like web agencies or just in general like web startups, I think you have to be involved in this kind of business thinking and knowing why you're doing things and yeah, just going a bit further than just the code, because the code is a mean to get us there, but it's by no means an end.
Sure, and whether you're pitching a client or creating your own company, I mean, communication and getting along with other people is really important. One of my concerns is that I suspect that this attitude, in some part, leads to the misogyny that we encounter in our industry, the poor diversity, gender balances, when people are not... Now, I don't mean in a malicious way, but maybe they're just not thinking that far, and some of this happens.
Well, I guess it does play a part in the whole thing of, like, if all you think about is yourself, and like if you don't have this ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, then you will treat anyone that's different as if they are you, and then you go with the dick jokes to someone that might not be into that, and yeah, I mean that's just an example, but obviously
right, but it can have unfortunate consequences.
Yeah.
What about the non-developers? What are they missing out on by really not paying enough attention to the code and not necessarily looking at that side of things at all?
Well, I would say maybe that's kind of asking me like, you know, why I do what I do, or I don't really know your point, but I mean, to me, the beauty of code maybe is that you're creating something, and like that's, you know, you have something to show for at the end of the day, and it does something useful, hopefully, and that's something that I guess in some jobs you have to find different ways of finding satisfaction, or maybe there's no way in some jobs. That's unfortunate, but I think like if I look at more manager types, or I don't know, like what you do, I guess is also as a like
I function as a lot, but as a bridge between the two worlds.
yeah.
But I see, for example, coders who only really think about the code, but I see salespeople, right, who don't think about the people writing the code and don't think about the beauty or the efficiency or, the chicken that's laying the eggs that they sell, right?
Yeah.
There's these people, sell my thing, and they'll promise you anything and sell you anything, but they're missing out, so I think and there's a middle ground for both sides.
Well, yeah, I guess they probably need some similar talks in their conferences, going more like, okay, just, you need to think of the coders or think of the people.
Sure. No, what I loved about
developers are humans too.
Yeah.
And,
So that part of your presentation is absolutely appropriate for other audiences too.
I guess.
Let's talk about some code.
Right.
We've got this wonderful situation going on now where in the last couple of years, PHP has really become reinvigorated, right? We, as part of the LAMP stack, PHP runs 80% of the web, but there's this incredible sort of professionalization of core development, real processes, ways to contribute, have become formalized and structured seemingly in very positive ways. And you have the Drupal project, right? I call it a meta project now, started with Drupal 8. It's got Symfony core components, Guzzle, Ascetic, all these other projects. And it's this meta collection of wonderful functionality that's ready to use. And, the Symfony routing component is in Easy Publish and is in Symfony CMF and is in Oro platform and Drupal. So Composer and the PSR standards are making this possible. You're the maintainer of Composer. Thank you for that. What do you think about the statement that Composer is driving the PHP Renaissance?
Well, I think it's very true in a way, and I just thought of a talk I gave, I guess 3.5 years ago. No, 2.5, something. 2.5, 3.5. It was in the first year of Composer, or it was, no, I think it was actually just when we started, a few months after we started, I gave this talk called PHP Reset. And it was at the IPC in Berlin. And I had 10 people in the room, and it was, nobody really got my point, I guess. But that's what I was seeing kind of coming, that with Symfony already I saw that I mean, that's why I joined the Symfony project originally, was that this 2.0 was a clean slate. It was just saying, okay, not an incremental version over the old stuff that all the frameworks had. It was okay, let's just trash the whole thing and start new with good basis. And so that appealed to me because I didn't like really anything that was out there. And so I thought this already triggered quite a few new things. There were already a bunch of libraries that came up out of this Symfony community, and I saw all this growing, and I saw this Composer thing we were working on, and I was okay, this it's gonna be awesome. And then people were yeah. And so that was kind of frustrating. Then a few months later at Confu, I gave another one where also there were 15 people in the room, and it was, early days, obviously nobody was using it, nobody knew about it.
What was the moment when it caught on? What happened?
I think it was just over a few months it started ramping up, and the more people used it, the more they were spreading it by, sending pull requests with Composer.json files everywhere, because they wanted to use these as dependencies, so they had to be referenced. So it got really big, really quick at some point. And I don't know what your question was anymore.
No, but just in case someone listening or watching doesn't know,
Yeah.
describe very briefly what the origin of Composer was, how it got started, and what it does.
Okay, so maybe just what it does shortly is like combining dependencies. So it just, you list your dependencies in your project and it just goes and fetches that plus their dependencies, and it checks that everything is compatible with each other according to the requires, glues that all together and installs it locally. So you have all the stuff, and all you need to care about really is those few dependencies that you need, like the nth degree dependencies that are not really any of your business. So, and
it also allows me to use a Symfony component in a Drupal project.
Yeah, that's the higher level.
A Zend component in
a
Symfony project, and right, and then all of a sudden we have
so
the project
kind of unifies the whole ecosystem in that way. That's for sure. And I mean, I think just quickly, the history of it was with Symfony we needed something for the bundles, and at the same time there was PHP VB that needed something for plugins, and plus in Symfony we also had the need for just installing things like Monologue and Ascetic and Doctrine that are like required by the framework. So those are not plugins, they're just generic libraries. So we needed to be able to install all this stuff. So it just turned into this generic PHP package manager and not just yet another project-specific installer, which was the good thing. That's what allowed it to unify everything and not just install like Symfony plugins, which would have been a shame, I think.
Right. So what do you think of Drupal people showing up at Symfony events and projects now really sharing development and passing each other their innovations?
I think that's cool. And as actually in the DX talk, I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
Ryan was asking I don't know where this DX term came from, and I'm not sure if it's that, but I know the Drupal guys use this a lot.
Yes.
And so I think it might be something that was actually brought back in as a...
This has been so exciting for me, this time has been so exciting for me, because Drupal is a very large community, very smart people, very innovative, but we've been doing such weird code until now that we haven't been able to effectively share that innovation. And I think that there's a lot more coming where we're all going to be able to help each other so much more. And the Darwinian side of open source will be able to choose the best library, the best components for a given problem space, and then everybody can use them and work on them together. Jordi Boggiano and I...
That's a pretty good pronunciation.
Oh.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. Are in sort of the outskirts of Madrid, Spain, at a fantastic conference hotel at SymfonyCon 2014. And it's been a great first day. I really liked your presentation. There's been a bunch of other good stuff. Everybody go check out those presentations online. Ryan Weaver's DX talk was very good. Thank you very much for Composer, especially, and all your contribution to open source. And thanks for taking the time to sit down with me today.
No worries. Thanks a lot.
And we'll try and keep an eye on the time and do this in 20 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So, because we got some beer to drink. He said we couldn't do this tomorrow because he's planning on having a hangover.
No.
Is that true?
The eventuality is there.
You never know.
You don't know.
It's never happened before, but...
It's just like risk planning and, I mentioned this in my talk, risk analysis.
Right,
See,
exactly.
the chance is there for failure, so